Season 2 is definitely a step up from Season 1. I think that everybody involved in Season 2 put everything they had into it, from the crew up to the EPs and the showrunner. And I'm proud of the show, man.
Like, sometimes I get lost in really action-packed thrillers where everything all of a sudden is okay and all the bruises are gone 2 days later. It's like, whoa. But what just happened didn't traumatize you. But with our characters, we carry that over, so it's a little bit more tapped into the human condition.
Shoot me or get out of my way.
Been a big fan of this show since it first came out. Been a long wait for season 2, and it jumps right into it. But I think it was kind of a little off-putting at the beginning, as everybody's telling Peter, you're new, you don't know what you're doing yet, you got to learn things. But throughout the season, it feels like Peter knows what the heck he needs to do in these situations. Did you feel like there was a jump between season 1 and season 2 in terms of what this character has to do in order to save the day, or did you feel like this was a natural progression?
I think that what he had to do was clear, but the path in which he had to take to get there was way more nuanced, and there were multiple paths, some of which are morally more gray than season 1. I think season 1 things were pretty clear, but the path was clear but difficult. And now the path is obscured, and there are multiple paths. And what are you willing to give up to take the easier path?
And it feels like this is such a cool character, and there are very few characters like this in TV and film these days. The closest comparison I can think is like Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. There's that guy who's kind of on his own, has to make the decision. Sometimes it goes against what's the letter of the law to do what's in the best interest. Did you draw any inspiration in making Peter this character from other film or television characters?
No, I think the closest thing, unironically, was Peter Parker. Is pushing him further and further away from being normal. So it's that balance of, hey, don't lose your humanity, but also we're gonna put you in an inhuman environment, where we almost want an input code of, you do this, you do it. I tell you to do something, you do it. It's the more utilitarian and transactional it is, the better you are at your job. And I don't think that's who Peter is. So I think that brings him into conflict with his superiors.
And speaking of which, you've got some new actors in the cast this time around, some different people to interact with. Was there anybody that was, really exciting to work with this season that you didn't get to work with on season 1?
I think, everybody has such a cool storyline. Reading the scripts, I was excited to see how the Iranian storyline played out with Ari and Kian and them. The broker storyline with Lewis and Berto and them was great. Luciane's relationship with me and Amanda's everything was so cool and grounded. My relationship with Brittany. Or Alice, I guess, on the show, but everybody's dynamic is so unique that it is a very cool feeling to look forward to seeing. A lot of shows, I think, with subplots feel like, okay, let's get back to the main plot. But with this one, the writers do a really good job of making everything relevant to what's going on,
And you never know what the reaction's going to be to a series when it comes out. There was such a great reaction from fans. How do you feel about how people reacted to the first season and now what you expect for season 2?
It's awesome, man. In this sort of age of quick fix, move on, binge something, move on after 2 years, the fact that there's still some level of anticipation for the show is awesome. And the responsibility to make it good is not lost on me. The amount of people that want to spend their time watching this show, that's not something I take lightly. I know in some interviews I seem pretty cavalier about acting as a as a job, which I won't ever go back on. It is sort of a not important societally job, but I think that when you do have that responsibility and people are watching your show, it's you should do your best to make it the best thing possible. So I think that season 2 is definitely a step up from season 1. I think that everybody involved in season 2 put everything they had into it, from the crew up to the EPs and the showrunner. And I'm proud of the show, man. So I think season 2 will be good.
People are going to love it. It's fantastic. I really loved it. Great job in juror number 2 as well. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
So even better than season 1. Absolutely loved it so much. And Luciane, when I spoke to you and Gabriel during season 1,
yes, I remember
there
you.
was kind of there's like a connection between the characters. They're not defined by one another, but they develop through each other. I think in this season it feels that Rose has so much more development as an individual. Did you feel there was like a lot more to dig into as the character this season?
Absolutely, and I really pushed for that. I didn't want her to be, like the love interest, the typical damsel in distress. She actually chooses to insert herself into the situation. It doesn't just happen to her. And yeah, I worked really hard with the writers to kind of find that fine balance, that it still feels like the character, but we can still tick all those boxes, which is great. And yeah, you kind of see them evolve. Rose has been away from this world for 10 months, and I think there's some growth in that. And, Peter was just thrown back into the front line and hasn't had space to take a step back and look at the situation.
And Amanda, been a fan of yours since The Leftovers. You play these characters that are in not just like authorities, but just strong characters that you feel are fully realized. They're not just, in the background. They're not just, oh, here's another person that's in charge of an office. You're this character that gets to go out in the field. You get to hands dirty in this season. What did you kind of like about playing Catherine?
Oh, thanks. You brought me back. I miss Lucy. I think about Lucy still, so thank you. With Catherine is very compartmentalized, and she communicates and uses her words. And with what Sean Ryan put in the dialogue for Catherine, really feeds the story. So if people get lost, like sometimes I get lost in really action-packed thrillers where everything all of a sudden is okay and all the bruises are gone. 2 days later, it's like, whoa. But what just happened didn't traumatize you. But with our characters, we carry that over, so it's a little bit more tapped into the human condition. But there is a lot of exposition, to be quite transparent, that Catherine gives, and I felt that was very, very important, and not to maybe go back to a crime show of the week or what have you. Shout out to all of those, but there was a lot of exposition. So how do we keep everyone entertained doing that? How do we keep everyone informed and keeping along with the story? And that was my responsibility, a responsibility that I embraced and was very excited by. And also because, Peter, he causes all sorts of trouble. So, she's got to fall back into a little bit more physical stuff too. So it was a nice balance, but always, Sean has it tapped into the human condition. So it was great.
And Arienne, Noor is such a great character. It's challenging enough to perform in one language, but in order to do it in multiple. And I mean, you already are bilingual, multilingual. What was it like finding Noor's voice in this series?
I mean, Noor, she's a very humble person and obviously very educated, and it was a bit challenging for me to tap into the language at points, because while I do speak Farsi, my knowledge is limited in terms of there was a lot of vocabulary that maybe I didn't know, so I found that very challenging. But luckily we had Sade, who was our on-set dialect and language coach, and she was very instrumental in helping me with all of that. And also, I just loved getting to tap into the culture itself. It's something that is very near and dear to me, and it's so rich. The music, the food, the language itself is so melodic. It was really, it was such a treat to be able to live in both worlds.
Well, it's a phenomenal season. The three of you are absolutely one of the key reasons why this season is so great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.